Queen Mary has been called one of the most haunted places in the world, and after spending one night there, I can tell you, these claims are not exaggerated. What if you went inside the ship, not believing any of the horror stories, but came out with a whole new perspective? Because that's what happened to me and my friends when we went there to mess around, not taking any of the stories we heard seriously, but what we experienced while there made us pack our bags and leave before sunrise. Let me tell you how it all started. What would you do if your friends dared you to spend the night in America's most haunted ship? Because one day, my friends and I were scrolling through videos on YouTube about haunted places when one of them brought up the Queen Mary. We started talking about it and whether we believe if it's actually haunted or not, and this got us into an argument. Because my friends are all huge skeptics. They believe that all ghost stories are either made up or have a plausible explanation for them. I, on the other hand, have always been a believer. So going back and forth with each other, we decided there was only one way to find out who was right. We had to go to the ship. So before I tell you what happened when we were there, let me give you a little backstory on Queen Mary's history and why it's known as one of the most haunted places in the world. The Queen Mary is a ship that was used during World War II, during which it was nicknamed the Grey Ghost. But here's the scary part. Over 50 recorded deaths occurred on this vessel, which is what gave it such an eerie reputation. There's a bunch of rooms in this ship that are known to be haunted. For example, in the engine room, a crew member named John Petter was crushed by door 13 during a drill, and his spirit is said to still be in that room wearing blue overalls and vanishing whenever you get close to him. The swimming pool on the ship is reportedly haunted by a little girl named Jackie, whose laughter and cries for her mother are often heard throughout the ship. But here's where it gets really frightening. Many guests who have stayed on the ship have reported unexplainable events happening while they were there, with reports of flickering lights, bed sheets being pulled off, faucets turning on by themselves, and ghostly figures standing at the foot of the bed. After hearing about this, my friends thought it was all nonsense. They kept saying stuff like, "Oh, the pipes are probably just old and the faucets leak. Big deal. I'm sure the staff just makes the place seem haunted so more people want to go to it." They were so confident that if we went there, nothing would happen to them. But let me tell you, they were regretting thinking that after we left. When we decided we were going to stay on the ship, we spent the next couple days researching which places on it were the most haunted. Some rooms are known for strange sounds, others are known for things moving around by themselves. There's one area where people say they feel like someone's watching them even when they're alone. And that wouldn't sound too weird if it weren't for the fact that it kept happening over and over and over again. We read that this happened so much to the point where people would just pack up their stuff and leave the rooms in the middle of the night because they just couldn't take it anymore. The more research we did, the more excited my friends got to prove that everything wasn't true. They were treating this like a mission to expose fake ghost stories. Meanwhile, I was reading testimonies from people who actually stayed there, and some of them were super detailed. These weren't vague stories about feeling spooked. They were specific accounts of doors opening and closing on their own, voices being heard from nowhere, and objects moving when no one was near them. The more I read, the more I realized we were definitely getting ourselves into something real. We booked our rooms for the following weekend, and looking back at that moment, I really wish we didn't. So the time comes where we arrive to the shift, and instantly, we feel something. Have you ever walked into a place where bad things have happened and you can almost feel the air change? There's just something different about it. That's exactly what hit us the moment we stepped onto the Queen Mary. I'm not talking about some dramatic movie moment or anything like that. It was just this heavy feeling, like the air was thicker somehow. My friends immediately started cracking jokes after getting onto the ship, but I could tell they felt it too after what happened later. The ship itself was interesting to say the least. We'd only seen pictures online, but in person, it was way different. The hallways were narrow and dark, with this old carpet that made everything feel closed in. The walls had this weird wood paneling that looked like it hadn't been updated since the ship was built decades ago. Everything creaked when we walked, and I mean everything. The floors, the walls, even the ceiling seemed to make noise for no reason. And I know what you're gonna say, we're on a ship, things creak. But trust me, not like this. Right after checking into the front desk, my friends immediately started trying to mess with me just to spook me out. One of them brought a speaker that I didn't know about, kept it hidden in their backpack, and played footsteps to make it sound like someone was walking behind us. Every time I'd turn around to see what was making the noise, everyone would just laugh at me. My friends were basically just walking soundboards, trying to get a reaction out of me. But these pranks quickly stopped once we got to our room, because this is where everything got real. I put the key card in the door, and we all crowded around me, eager to see what it looked like inside. But the second we opened the door, that's when we heard it. A weird noise coming from somewhere inside the room. It wasn't loud, but it was definitely there. We all stopped talking at the exact same time, which never happens with my friend group. They're just a bunch of yappers, man. But suddenly, their mood switched, and one of them went, "Did you guys hear that?" No one was joking around anymore. After walking around a little bit, we realized that the noise was coming from the bathroom. But here's what's weird. The door to it was shut. So we all just stood there with our ears to the door for a second, listening to what it could be. I sure wasn't gonna be the one to open it, because I actually believed in this freaky stuff. So I told them, come on guys, one of you open it. You don't believe in it anyway. They knew I was right. So one of my friends mustered up the courage to open the door. And what did we find inside? The sink was turned on full blast. Water was just pouring out of the faucet like someone turned it on and then walked away. This was weird for two reasons. Number one, none of us had been in the room yet, so we knew that it wasn't any of us. But number two, remember when I said we walked in and the door was closed? What hotel have you gone to where the bathroom door on the inside is closed? We were all wondering the answer to these questions. Of course, my friends went straight into logical mode. The cleaning staff just probably left the sink on by accident. They tried to rationalize it. Maybe housekeeping was in there and they forgot to turn it off. But deep down, all of us knew that something was up. The energy in the room felt different after that. All of a sudden, no one was making jokes anymore. After standing around awkwardly for a few minutes, my friend Jake suggested that we go explore the rest of the ship. I think we all wanted to just get out of that room and distract ourselves from what just happened. But we had no idea that it would get so much worse than just that sink turning on. We grabbed our stuff and headed into the hallway. The ship felt way more spooky now that we just went through our first real, unexplained experience. The pranking had completely stopped. No one was playing any fake noises anymore. No one was trying to jump scare anyone. Sure, my friends may not have admitted that they believed something paranormal was actually happening yet, but from the way they were acting, I knew they were starting to question themselves. We made our way down to the lower level of the ship, and that's when we found the boiler room. This was a place we were all too familiar with after doing our research on the ship. Deep within the bowels of the Queen Mary lies the boiler room. It's a dark, echoing chamber where the shadows are seen moving all the time and whispers drift through the walls. One of the reasons people are so reluctant to believe any paranormal stories from the boiler room is that it's so deep in the ship, so it makes a lot of weird, creaking noises, and it's super dark. You can literally hear the ship creaking, making noises that can trick you into thinking something's down there when really there's nothing. But although some people are skeptical of the things that happen in the boiler room, I can tell you what we experienced down there cannot be written off. Because in the boiler room, this is where the infamous Door 13 is. What's Door 13? It's a section of the boiler room where a young crewman was crushed during a routine drill. And ever since, visitors have reported hearing heavy boots pacing and seeing fleeting figures vanish into the darkness. This seems pretty extreme to me, so I honestly didn't know if I even believed that part. So at first, I was intrigued to go to it. As we made our way towards Door 13, my friend suddenly stopped in his tracks. He grabbed my arm and pointed to the lower level of the boiler room. Do you guys see that person down there? We all looked where he was pointing, and sure enough, there was someone walking at the bottom of the room. It was too dark to make out any details, but we definitely knew that it was someone. The person looked like they were just casually walking, not in a hurry or not trying to sneak around the ship. They were wearing what looked like regular clothes, nothing that would imply that they worked for the ship. From where we were standing, it looked like they may have just been exploring the place just as we were. We originally didn't know that you were allowed to go that far down into the boiler room, so after seeing him do it, we figured we should go down there too and check it out. But that was a mistake, because we all looked at him for about 10 seconds to see where he was walking until he turned a corner and we couldn't see him anymore. My friend suggested that we go say hi to him, because based off how he was walking and the fact that he was alone, he probably knew his way around the ship more than we did. So we started walking down to where we saw that person go. We went downstairs and turned down the same hallway that we saw him turn into. But when we turned that corner, this is where nothing started to make any sense. Because what did we see after going the same way he went? Nothing. But the unexplainable thing is, the hallway that he turned down to walk to led to a dead end. There was literally nowhere else to go. It just ended in a solid wall. No doors, no other passages, no stairs going up or down. Just a wall. We all stood there looking at each other like, where could this person have possibly gone? Because as we were walking down to where we saw him turn, we never saw him come back. So there was no rational explanation for where he had gone. My friend Ryan was the first one to crack and make me think that these people actually started to believe. That doesn't make any sense. We just saw him go that way. Maybe there's a hidden door or exits we don't know about. But we looked as detailed as possible, and there was nothing. No way out of this dead end except for the way we came in. We checked literally every inch of that hallway. The person we'd all seen walking around somehow had completely vanished without a trace. We all just looked at each other, and this was a point where we realized we just witnessed something real. They now weren't trying to rationalize it or come up with a way that this could have been explained. Everyone just accepted that we knew absolutely nothing. But what we did know is that we wanted to get out of that boiler room. On the walk back to the room, we didn't say much. Everyone was pretty spooked by what just happened, and basically, we just wanted to chill. Nobody wanted to explore the rest of the ship anymore. Our plan now was to get food, go back to our room, and watch TV for the rest of the night. But we had no idea that the ship had other plans for us. Because after we got back from our whole disappearing person experience, everyone was pretty shaken up. We weren't even like talking in the room when we got back or anything like that. We basically all just went straight to bed. I think we all had the same idea. Maybe if we could just make it through the night and get some sleep, everything would seem way less scary during the daytime. The room felt different now after everything that had happened. Every little sound seemed way creepier than it should have been. And like we said, we were on a boat, so there was a lot of weird sounds. But now, we were paying attention to every single one. I was having a lot of trouble falling asleep, which wasn't surprising considering everything that just happened. But eventually, I must have drifted off, because the next thing I knew, I was being jolted awake by this incredibly loud bang in the middle of the night. And when I say loud, I mean it. Like, as loud as your mom when she told you to do the dishes and you didn't. It almost sounded as if someone took a sledgehammer and hit it on the wall as hard as they could. The sound was so sharp and sudden that it made my heart start racing. Here's what was really weird though. All four of us jumped up at the exact same time. Not like one person and then everyone else started waking up. We all opened our eyes and sat up in the same second, as if we just all got hit by a lightning bolt. Everyone was on edge after the things we were experiencing. Although everyone heard the noise, none of us wanted to move because as long as we were under our covers, we were safe from whatever was out there. I don't care if there's a dang hurricane going on. If you're under your covers, you're good. No need to fear. But then that same noise happened again, and it was loud. So now we couldn't just ignore it. If something actually bad was happening on the ship, we needed to get out of the room. So we had to go check and make sure everything was okay. And we all knew that the sound was coming from right outside our door. It wasn't above us or below us. No, we knew it was in the hallway. We all just sat there for a minute. Nobody saying anything, just listening to see if we would hear it again. But the hallway was completely silent now. My friend whispered, "Yo, did you guys hear that?" No, bro. We all just collectively jolted up at the exact same second as if we were doing a dance in a K-pop group together for no reason. Of course we all heard it! We spent about a minute just sitting there debating whether we should go investigate what that noise was. Cause let me tell you, nobody wanted to open our door. But we knew that we had to figure out what that noise was. So my friend got up and walked over to the door. He put his ear against it and listened for a few seconds. He didn't hear anything. So he slowly turned the handle and creaked the door open to look through the hallway. We all stood behind him trying to see into the hallway. But after getting a look, nothing was there. No person out there, no object that could explain what we just heard. But then we noticed something that made everything way more weird. I pointed down the hallway and said, "Guys, look at that room down there." About 3 doors down from us, there was a room with a door that was wide open. Not just unlocked, but completely open, like someone had walked through it and put something on the door to make it not close. We all looked at that door for probably 30 seconds, just to see if anyone would come in or outside of that room, but no one did. It was the middle of the night, so the housekeeping ladies being inside there didn't really seem like a rational thing. And if someone was staying inside that room, that door would have been closed by now. So there was no logical reason for that door to be open at this time. Because keep in mind, it's 3 a.m., like no one is up. So we made a decision, let's go check out the room. We stepped out into the hallway in our PJs and went towards the door. We walked slowly, trying to stay quiet in case someone was actually in there. As we got closer, we could see that the room was dark inside, but there was a faint light coming from it. The whole situation just felt wrong, and we were about to find out just how wrong it really was. Jake was the first one walking in front of us, and he kept stopping every few seconds to see if he could hear something from the room. The rest of us were just bunched up behind him like a really, really tough looking group of guys. No, I'm just kidding. We looked like absolute wimps. Matter of fact, we were wimps. But when we reached that door, time felt like it froze, because when we looked inside, the room was completely empty. And I don't just mean no one was currently in there. No, there was no luggage, no personal items, no clothes thrown on the bed, but there was one sign of someone being there. Because remember how I said there was a faint light coming from inside the room, even though it was dark? Well, that light was coming from the bathroom. The main light in the room wasn't on, but this one was. So we slowly now step into the room so we can see what's inside that bathroom. Keeping in our mind that if someone's in there, we're about to get in big trouble. But after opening that bathroom door, my stomach dropped after what I saw. The sink was turned on exactly like it had been in our room. Water was pouring out of the faucet like someone had just turned it on and walked away. But this time, we knew for certain that no one had been in the room. We watched the door for several minutes. We searched every corner of the place. No one was there. This was the moment that completely broke our ability to rationalize anything that was happening. One sink randomly turning on by itself could maybe be weird old pipes, maybe faulty plumbing. But 2 sinks in different rooms turning on when nobody was there, that was something else entirely. We were experiencing the exact same paranormal event twice in one night, and there was no logical explanation for it. My friends no longer needed any convincing. We all pretty much just ran straight back to our room as fast as possible. The second we got back there, we started throwing stuff in our bags as quick as we could. Nobody discussed it or debated whether we should leave or not. We all just started packing like our lives depended on it. We were out of that room and off the Queen Mary within probably 10 minutes. None of us spoke on that drive home. And to this day, we haven't really discussed what we actually thought happened while we were on the ship that night. But I can tell you this, my friends went onto the ship as skeptics. But after leaving, their minds have completely changed about what they think could possibly be out there.